is May 2nd, Thursday, 2024, calling the Utilities Committee to order. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Casey,
Present.
Spencer,
Present.
Bishop,
Here.
Gray, Harsh,
Here.
Kelly. Present. Valencia. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we get underway today, I would like to take a moment of personal privilege. I want to say that I want to thank my committee members and the members of DPU for all the hard work and dedication. Being in public service is not an easy thing to do, whether you're on this side of the table or that side of the table. And there's people in our lives who are victims of the circumstances that we are in, just because this is the life that we have chosen. And today I want to, and I know that she's watching, but my wife today is officially spent more than half of her life being my bride. So I just wanted to, well, thank you very much. I just wanted to wish her a happy anniversary. I know she's watching, and thank her for everything. I know she's a saint. Thanks a lot, Fakita. I just wanted to say that because I know that our families put up a lot with what we do here, especially on this side, being in public office, and you know, we're the face, but our families are also out there as well, and they didn't ask for a lot of the stuff that they go through, but we just wanted to let it know that, you know, on behalf of Cleveland City Council and the administration, that, you know, that our families today, you know, a special shout out to them who put up with a lot for the business that we have chosen to do. With that being said, 386, 2024, by council members Casey and Griffin, by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance and/or Public Utilities to either exercise the first one-year option to renew under the Sustainable Ohio Public Energy Council contract entered into under ordinance number 631, 2023, or to enter into an amendment to the SOPEC contract to change the options to renew from one-year options to renew to 1 2-year option to renew exercisable by the appropriate director, and to further authorize exercising such option. This is as amended. I know I read the amendments last time. Do I have to read the amendments again into the record for this one too? All right. All right, here we go. There's no legal objection to this legislation. Amends as follows. 1, in the title, strike lines 3 through 10 in their entirety and insert public utilities to renew the SOPEC contract entered into under ordinance number 631, 2023 for an additional fixed pricing for 12 or 24 months, and 2, and in line 11, strike option and insert renewal. Number 2, in the first whereas clause, line 2, after contract, insert also known as the membership agreement. Number 3, strike the 3rd, 4th, and 5th whereas clause in their entirety and insert whereas it is the desire of the city to obtain fixed pricing for its certain electric customers under the SOPEC opt-out program, and to do that, the city desires to renew the SOPEC contract for either 12 or 24 additional months. And number 4, in section 1, line 2, after quote, parenthesis 1, unparenthesis, unquote, strike exercise the first one-year option to, and strike lines 3, 4, 5, and 6 in their entirety. Insert under ordinance number 631, 2023 for fixed pricing for an additional 12 months, or 2, renew the SOPEC contract entered into under ordinance number 631, 2023 for fixed pricing for an additional 24 months, and is further authorized to exercise such renewal at the discretion of the appropriate director. Number 5, in section 2, line 3, after renew, insert for an additional 12 months as authorized in ordinance number 631, 2023. Directors, I know that there's been a lot of discussion regarding this piece of legislation, a lot of questions, and a lot have been answered. Something that I just noticed is who's going to be the appropriate director?
Thank you, Chairman. So it's either the Director of Finance or the Director of Public Utilities which is seeking authority to execute the contract. The current contract with SOPEC was executed by the Director of Finance.
Okay. All right. All right. I have no question. All my questions were answered by the administration in previous conversations. So does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Okay. Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is a SOFI piece?
Pardon me?
This is a SOFI piece, right?
The SOPAC.
SOPAC piece, oh,
Yes.
okay, all right, I'm sorry. So I want, can the director explain to me that if we enter into a 2-year agreement versus a 1-year agreement with 2 options to renew, correct? That if prices fall, how would our customers benefit from that? If we enter into 2-year agreement, correct?
Chairman, to the council members, so we're seeking authority for either a 12-month fixed price or a 24-month fixed price. If the prices were to fall, we would remain at the fixed price. But again, the converse of that is if the prices go up, and that's the main purpose of it. With the fluctuating market, there will be times when the price goes down, I'm guessing, but certainly the same guess would say the prices go up. The biggest benefit to the fixed price, and what we've heard regularly from council, was the benefit to the customer to have a true understanding of what they're going to pay, right? A traditional amount of consumption will remain for the 12 or 24 fixed month the same bill, right? So it's really an affordability matrix that we're trying to put together, metric.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand, Director, if we anticipate the prices will continue to rise. Is that what I'm hearing? And that's why we want to go into a 2-year deal. And I understand that if we expect prices to continue to rise, the 2-year deal is the best way to go. But if prices fluctuate like they have been over the course of, I'm not exactly sure how long, but if they continue to fluctuate, is there a risk? You think the risk is not as great if we sign a 2-year deal, is what I'm trying to understand, Director?
Chairman, to the council member, that's correct. I mean, if we get an indicative price that is competitive in today's market and fixed for 24 months, we believe that the risk of the price going below that for any significant or even, a significant amount of time, the risk is minimal.
Okay.
What we do anticipate is prices continue to rise, but again, our effort is to get a fixed price that is competitive. Those prices that were to dip, and then we go to the market for an indicative price for any period of time, would be at or about the same level, right? Because they're not going to give you any price that's when it's at the bottom. They're still going to hedge. The market is going to hedge for it to be at or about where that indicative price lands. So we're certainly not trying to cost anybody any more money.
Okay, another question I have. This aggregate will be locked in for 2 years if we go for the 2-year option. Can a customer cancel? Like say if I'm a customer and about 14 months into it, can I cancel and jump on another service? Say if the prices fall, can I cancel our aggregate plan and go to another supplier?
Yep, to the chair, to the councilman. Yes, you have the ability to opt out if you would like to.
At
There
any
is some
point?
time to transfer over back to the First Energy customer. So that does take a little bit of time, and I can get how much time that would be for you.
All right, okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other questions on 386, 2024?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I want to tailgate on Councilman Bishop. Just also want to, before I tailgate, I want to thank Councilman Casey, came to my community meeting last Thursday and explained the process of the aggregated rate that is going on with the CPP customers now. It it's very difficult for them to understood what was going on with their bills because a lot of them have a high rate bill, and some of their electricity was turned off too. And due to what they still going through, even though the amnesty program paid off a lot of these bills, they are now back in the same position they were when they got to help. But Councilman Casey came to my community meeting last Thursday, and he really did an excellent, excellent job of breaking it down and explaining how that that affects the bill, and also to explain to them that's separate from what CPP charges. And it's still kind of confusing to me because I'm the enemy on the other end. However, he did a great job. He did a great job. And one of my residents in Ward 4, he actually assisted with getting the funds for her to pay her half her bill down and got her lights turned back on the next day. So I applaud him for being a champion, for doing that with the residents. They really appreciated all the great information that he extended to them. And that I just want to piggyback on. Thank you, Councilman Casey, for standing up and being there for me. So,
You're welcome.
you're welcome. Thank you. So, but I just want to piggyback on Bishop, that is the problem that we having. A lot of the residents want to opt out now, but opting out and going to First Energy, they have to pay just as much just to get everything switched over. So, but if they don't opt out and they stay, what is the reassurance for them to not to continue to get this? If you're changing over to something they're going to be less for that aggregated cost, what is the insurance that they want to stay with CPP, to say this won't happen again. They don't have that reoccurring extra $100 added onto their regular low-cost bill, that they are comfortable to stay with CPP.
Director?
Through the chairman of the council members, so on CPP, this ordinance and what we're seeking here doesn't affect the CPP customer. This is only the First Energy customers, the residential, small commercial First Energy customers in the city of Cleveland, and this is the portion of their bill that can be aggregated. On the CPP, and I know the chairman and we know we've come out and met with a number of your residents about Cleveland Public Power and the billing. Their rates have not increased. It's all based on consumption. So we know we have unfortunately, some apartment buildings, some that are heavily reliant on electricity, right, for heat and cool. So you see those fluctuations in their bills on the seasonal changes, but the rates haven't changed. And this ordinance is specific to First Energy customers, residential and small commercial First Energy customers in the city of Cleveland.
And if I may, through the chair to the councilwoman, this summer we have availability for SOPEC to come to board meetings and walk through electricity bills with residents who are First Energy customers.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilwoman, I can tell you in conversations I've had with the Department of Public Utilities, coming late summer, probably early fall, we're going to have an awful lot of conversations regarding Cleveland Public Power and the future of Cleveland Public Power and bills and rates and all that other stuff. But that's coming probably in the fall, Director, sometime around there. Whoops, sorry.
That's correct, Chairman.
Somewhere around there. So this year, we'll definitely be having further conversations on everything that you've been discussing with Cleveland Public Power.
Okay.
All right? Anybody else have anything on 386, 2024? Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
I wanted to take a moment to thank you for giving this committee the opportunity to 2 weeks. We last heard this piece 2 weeks ago today, and in those intervening 2 weeks, we've received additional information from the administration, and you've helped keep the trains running on time, Mr. Chair. So I thank you very much for that. So with that said, the majority of my questions have been answered. I would just be curious to know a couple of things. One is going back to questions about pricing. I understand that the pricing we're getting is favorable, but through the chair, I'm wondering if the administration can comment on, just for the benefit of the listening public, the pricing we're receiving, and how does that compare to what we thought we would be getting when we first entered into this arrangement? Through the chair.
So through the chair to the councilwoman, thank you. The pricing that we are getting through this program is 6.302 cents per kilowatt hour. By comparison, First Energy pricing is 11.08 cents per kilowatt hour at the moment. And that was, the pricing we are receiving is below what we were expecting when we first issued this RFP.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Chair, it would be an interesting thought exercise to kind of, for a typical customer bill, what is a customer getting with the SOPEC pricing as opposed to the First Energy pricing. But I'm not going to offer to do the math here on the spot, so I just that kind of would be an interesting thing for the public to be aware of. So I'm pleased to know that the pricing has come in lower than anticipated. And then my only other question, Mr. Chair, would be, and I believe we've established that, but again, just for the benefit of the listening public and for us as committee members, when would this go back out for bid? What are those touch points or timelines, that benchmarks we have to meet in terms of timelines and deadlines as we look forward to that next step?
Director?
Yes, thank you, through the chair to the council member. So the touch points would be, we're seeking authority for either 12 or 24-month fixed at the discretion of the administration, right? So we're hoping to have 2 years of fixed pricing. But we also know that that's the end of this ordinance's authority as it currently stands. So towards the end of 2025, we will come back to council and seek authority to go out to bid. So that will be the July 2026 meter read is the very end of the authority that we're seeking today. So end of 25, new legislation.
And that's sufficient time for that new legislation, and then it would be a 6-7 month period for any changes to go into
Through
place.
the chairman of
Through
the council member, that's correct.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So legislation coming back to council end of 2025. You can
Correct.
take note.
And-
All right.
Through the chair, if I may, to the councilwoman, we have a number for that annual savings is about $276 per account.
customer.
Yeah, on
Thank you.
average.
And again, just for the viewing public, we aggregate the electricity to save our customers money. And that's what this whole process is about. So that at the current rate, they're only paying 6 cents as opposed to the 11 cents. So it doesn't sound like, a nickel doesn't sound like much, but with the consumption, and nickels add up to become dollars. And as the director just said, it's going to save you $222 a year. That's $222 back in our residents' pocket.
Through the chair, it's 276,
Average.
well,
Or
ballpark,
276.
Ballpark.
over $200 a year.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions on 386, 2024? Seeing none, 386, 2024 stands approved. Please sign up. Thank you for all your due diligence, Director. We appreciate all your hard work and dedication to our customers
Thank
and
you.
residents of the city of Cleveland. Director, before we get into our next two pieces, we have a public comment regarding these two pieces. So we're going to hear the public comment prior to the legislation, yeah. So we have Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney, who wants to speak on agenda resolutions on ordinance 167, 2024, and 373, 2024. Good morning, Ms. Pinckney, how are you?
Reverend Pinckney.
I'm sorry,
Good
Reverend
morning.
Pinckney. How are you?
I'm good. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good. So you want to talk on these two pieces of legislation specifically, correct?
Yes, and inclusive of the last one you just did, because this one goes, the first one and the last one combined together.
So go ahead.
Okay. Once again, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I would just like to know, since you're counting up the costs for these pieces of legislation for utilities that impact families in Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and Ohio, and the United States, how will this legislation go towards ending homelessness? Because when people are homeless, then they run into a situation where things are not affordable and the shelters don't have a way to help them with utility costs and that type of thing. How will this impact victims of domestic violence? Because victims of domestic violence flee for their safety and cannot pay a bill and have to walk away from everything. How much will this cost the taxpayers as well as the non-taxpayers here in Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and the state of Ohio, that we could have a reasonable budget to build families? And then for for ordinance number 373, 2024, how does this utility cost and affect our policing and our safety? Those are my concerns.
All right. Is that it?
And yes, and as I was telling you, the homelessness and mass incarceration has increased so much in this country. I would like to see our utilities be more affordable and more sensitive to this. And I would like for you all to reach out to the church, the faith community, for solutions, as well as not just giving us something. And you do your best. I mean, you all are awesome. You do your very best to do everything you can to be accommodating. But I'm outside of the box, and I see what happens on the outside of the box. Thank you for hearing what I have to say.
You're welcome.
And you all have a very blessed day. And reach out to your pastors. I don't know. I'm a preacher, so I say pastor. I'm sure some of you may have rabbis or whatever. But reach out and let's see how we can end this homelessness, this mass incarceration, and this domestic violence.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Have a good day.
You as well.
Director, would you like to come back up? Ordinance 373, 2024 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more contracts of LED video display boards with training if necessary for 5251 North Marginal Road, including labor and materials needed to remove and dispose of the existing video boards and labor, installation and maintenance of the new equipment for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. This is at the Whale Wall or Lake Road Transfer Station or Marginal Road, as you all drive by on a regular basis. The LED signs are broken. We are seeking authority to go out to bid to replace both sides of the LED sign, and then some maintenance and training for new technologies on changing the signage. It is unfortunately expensive. We are budgeting $95,000 over a 2-year period to replace and train and maintain the LED signs at 5251 North Marginal Road.
This is the LED sign that you see when you're driving down Route 2 in front of the Whale Wall.
That's correct.
And you've had a conversation with Councilman Hairston regarding this?
I have not.
Okay. All right, any questions on 373, 2024? Councilman Harsh.
Just a question through the chair. This is the sign that gives motorists update on traffic conditions?
No, this is the sign that, right in front of, the monument sign right in front of the Lake Road transformer station that gives weather. It says different city announcements, Cleveland Public Power,
right.
customer service lines.
Okay.
Similar to what water has at Garrett Morgan on the West Shore Way, but it's bigger, unfortunately, and it's more expensive.
And through the chair, is this just operated for public service, or is there another reason that this is in existence?
Chairman of the council member, that's correct.
I see. Okay. And through one last question, I've always wondered about this. How long has that been there?
The monument sign?
Yes.
Through the
weather.
chairman to the council member, I believe 12 years? It was, I believe.
No, not the whales. We could do away with the whales too. Okay, no further questions, Chairman. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Anybody else? Councilman Kelly?
No, thank you, everything's fine with that, but I did have some Cleveland students, I think you guys just repainted the whale thing or something over there, but they were telling me they can't see the scuba diver anymore, so they asked me to pass it along. Maybe you could brighten up the scuba diver a little bit.
Chairman to the council member, the Wyland Foundation, who did the painting a couple of years ago, I believe 5 years ago, did refresh the mural, the whale wall. But I can certainly pass along to them the scuba diver. I wasn't aware, but thank you.
On behalf of the kids, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else on 373, 2024? All right, we got to get the scuba diver back up. And
Got it.
All right, seeing no other questions, 373, 2024 stands approved. Please sign up. Our last piece of legislation, 167, 2024, by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to extend the lease with City Rose Limited for the public purpose of operating the Division of Cleveland Public Power's East Side Service Center at 14100 Darley Avenue for a term of 5 years with one option to renew for an additional 5-year period exercisable by the Director of Public Utilities. Director?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the committee's interest, and we were able to tour the facility recently with you and a couple of council members. Again, this is our presence on Darley Avenue, East 140th. It is a unique structure that currently meets the needs of the Division of Cleveland Public Power, and Commissioner DeGennaro and I have discussed pretty openly about the efforts that we put into finding either a new location or putting the plan together to build something new in the area or in around those customers that we serve. It is still our recommendation to renew the lease at the current terms, and the commissioner certainly can address any specifics that the committee might have.
Commissioner?
Thank you. So the legislation would authorize an extension of the existing lease for 5 years with an additional, with an option to renew for an additional 5-year term. The property is, it's a portion of permanent parcel 112-27-007. The leased premises include the southerly half of a building, which is approximately, the portion we lease is approximately 97,000 square feet. In addition, we have access to a 2.5-acre pole yard, and we've also got access to a parking lot with 75 parking spaces. The rent is $250,000 per year, and we do have the option to renew for an additional 5-year term. Thank you.
All right, and Director or Commissioner, how long have we been out there?
We've been there since 2000.
Since 2000, so going on 25 years that we've been out at that station.
Correct, Chairman.
All right, all my questions were answered in our little powwow out at the yard, so I have none. Does anybody else have any questions on 167, 2024? Mr. Chairman. Councilman Polensek?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you and the director, Ms. DeGennaro, and my other colleagues that came out to look at the site as well. I'm very much aware of the site. In fact, I was there again on Sunday. The only thing I would ask of the administration through Ms. DeGennaro, that, because I've been unsuccessful in trying to coordinate a meeting with the owner of the property, I would ask if you could coordinate that meeting. I'd like to sit down with the owners of the property because, again, there's issues that need to be addressed, not on the lease property, but the property that surrounds the lease property. So I would request that through the chair if we can coordinate a meeting. Thank you.
Director, can you help us set something up if we can, or Commissioner?
Certainly.
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, happy to do so.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilman Harsh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity as well to be able to go out there and look at it, having learned about all of this for the first time. It does seem inefficient use of funds for the city to have spent $6 million on this facility so far, and basically to go into a contract to spend another $2.5 million. That's will bring us up in 10 years to $8.5 million on a facility that we still don't own. And having walked around and looked at it, I could never see a reason why they would ever sell to us if they've got us on the hook for millions of dollars over the course of forever. Why would they? But yet we pay for all the maintenance and upkeep on this. I understand the utility of it. There's lots of things that we can get done out there, but it seems like the city owns facilities that we could condense, that we could pass those savings along to the residents of Cleveland, or perhaps just improve services to the residents of Cleveland with the money saved. And that should be, I hope, through the chair to the director, our long-term plan. I do understand the practicality of this ordinance. I would like to suggest one amendment, though. I don't know if you want me to do that now or if you want me to do that when everybody else has had a chance to say their piece, but I would hope that we are looking to consolidate long-term into a facility that we own, and that this will be the last time we have to revisit this. Would you like me to pose my amendment now or save it?
Let's see if there's any other questions regarding 167. Any other questions regarding 167, 2024? All right, seeing none, go ahead, continue.
So, Mr. Chair, I would suggest an amendment to Section 2, Line 3, striking by the Director of Public Utilities and replacing it with legislative authority.
All right, so Section 2 then would read, "The term of the lease extension authorized by the ordinance shall be 5 years commencing September 1st, 2024, with one option to renew for an additional 5-year period, exercisable with legislative authority." Director, do you have a comment on that? No? All right, do we have a second on the amendment?
I'm fine with that.
We got a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so 167, 2024, as amended, stands approved. Please sign up. Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your time and diligence on this.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Commissioner.
All right. As this committee knows, 2023, going into 2024, there was a facilities assessment done for the Department of Public Utilities, specifically with the Cleveland Water and Water Pollution Control. Out of that facilities assessment, it kind of gives us the guidance that we need going forward to maintain our utility for water and water pollution control. And out of that facilities assessment came a rate study that the administration is prepared to present to us today. We are not going to be hearing the legislation on this yet. It's been introduced, but we're not hearing it yet, so they're here today just to give us the presentation on the rate study that was done for Cleveland Water and Water Pollution Control. So, Director?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And just so the facility assessment that you spoke about was specific to Cleveland Public Power, and so that was a standalone ordinance. We also had the ordinance for the rates of water and water pollution control to do the necessary analysis that would result in a recommendation and an ordinance for consideration on the two divisions of water and water pollution control. As council's aware, they are billed together based on the same consumption data. So therefore, as historically, it has either come together or it's come 2 years apart. We thought at this point, and council gave us the support with the ordinance to bring them together, to do them consistently, and then to get on a pattern of moving forward, having them both at or around the same time. It was just problematic on multiple different fronts to alternate water and water pollution control. As you mentioned earlier, Cleveland Public Power, we are very, very busy on that rate study. We are making progress for hopeful introduction this summer and discussion towards the later part of this year. But we do have a presentation. I hope that it is on the tablets and on the board, Commissioner Mark Gavish's, but this is primarily a fiscal-focused endeavor. CFO Troy and her team kind of work closely with the consultants and with the Commissioner's office on the operational side. But at this point, our intention is to present the findings of the rate study and our recommendations, and then get the consultants here to answer any specific questions, or if those questions come by way of, through the chairman, certainly this is a open dialogue that we hope to engage in here as long as it takes for our customers. So if it's okay with you, I would turn it over to CFO Catherine Troy for a presentation.
CFO Troy,
Morning.
good morning.
Can I have the remote?
Sure.
Or just if you want to do it. All right. Today,
Just, Catherine, just make sure you talk into the mic so that everybody hears your lovely voice.
Oh, yes. All right, so today we're going over the results of the rate study for Cleveland Water and WPC. The first one is going to be water. The study goals were to develop a 5-year financial plan from 2025 through 2029, and to facilitate that financial plan through implementation of water rates that recover the full cost of providing water service, make sure that those costs are allocated equitably. There are 442,000 accounts in the Cleveland Water Division, and this is the 10th largest water system in the country. And then to structure those rates to make sure that it's equitable and affordable. Cleveland Water's financial position. Want to remind everyone that Cleveland Water is an enterprise fund. It functions as a separate business entity for financial purposes, which means it is funded primarily from user rates and fees. In the last 20 years, Cleveland Water has invested almost $1.5 billion into the system. Over the last 10 years, Cleveland Water has reduced its outstanding debt by $430 million. And then we also continue to have a strong credit rating. We just got a visit from one of the rating agencies, and they have maintained our rating, and we expect that we will be going to visit them again very shortly for debt that was recently approved by council. This is a snapshot of Cleveland Water's.
Hold on for
Yep.
1 second. Am I in the wrong one? Oh, I'm a water pollution control, sorry. Okay. There's two different presentations.
pretty.
Okay.
They
All
look
right, they
stark.
do, yeah, they start out. Okay, continue. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so slide 4 that shows the annual revenue requirement comparison for 2024 versus 2029. As you can see, there are obviously an increase in this time period by 2029. The large increases are mainly due to chemicals that we've seen significant increases over for the last couple years and expect to continue increases, employment costs, and then general maintenance of the system. When looking at the financial plan for the system, we have some metrics that we go for that we are striving to reach in order to maintain the healthy financial position. These are best practices, so we maintain our debt service coverage, maintain adequate reserves, and we ensure that our capital funding is available to us at all times. Slide 6. This is the unencumbered cash for Cleveland Water as it stands today. You can see if council, or as you can see, expenditures are expected to continue to rise over the next several years. If we do nothing, Cleveland Water will start having issues with their cash balance starting in 2026. Slide 7 is the same graph, except for assuming that the recommended rate changes are accepted by council and approved for the 2025 year. You can see that we will meet the target for the minimum cash on hand. Right now, in 2023, the ending was 173 days of cash on hand, and by 2029, it'll be 151 days, which is what our minimum target is expected to be. This slide shows the recommended rate plan for Cleveland Water. The recommendation is that the system needs an annual increase to maintain operations. The plan is to assess the majority of the increases on the consumption charge, keeping the fixed fee below $10 to assist in the affordability efforts. The average Cleveland residential customer, which is 0.5 MCFs every month, will see an average annual increase of 2.9% over the 5 years, which equates to less than $9 each year. Next slide, on slide 9, shows where Cleveland Water is in comparison to other water entities in the Great Lakes region, as well as in main targets across the country. You can see that Cleveland Water continues to be affordable. The rates are comparable to cities that are as of their rates of 2024. So you can see right now, the 2029 expected rate for Cleveland Water, or the recommended rate for 2029, is in about the middle of the pack, and the 2024 rate is actually towards the bottom quarter. We would expect that those cities that are in this exhibit would be showing rate increases in those future years, so we anticipate that Cleveland Water will continue to be towards the bottom of the pack. In conclusion, we believe that the rate adjustments are necessary to maintain water's healthy financial position. Increasing costs of operations and essential system reinvestment will require modest rate increases to ensure continued financial health. Recommended rate adjustments are designed to promote affordability by minimizing the fixed charge increases, and Cleveland Water rates are and will continue to be among the lowest of our peers. Question. I don't know where that went.
Director, that's Cleveland Water. Did you want to do water pollution control, then take questions, or do you want to take questions now?
Certainly up to you, Chairman.
We'll take questions now.
Okay.
Can you get us, Director or Commissioner or CFO, we've been the 10th largest water system, and am I correct in saying that we're the 10th largest? Is that based on number of customers, or is that based on geographic?
Based on the number of service connections that we serve.
Okay.
The 442,000 that
okay.
Catherine quoted.
Can you give me the list of the 9 that are above us?
Happy to do so.
We can compare, just to see what we need to do to keep climbing that chain. I know we've been saying we're the 9th or 10th largest for a while now, but if you could just get us whoever's above us, and then the one right below us. Questions? Councilman, do you have anything? Okay. Councilman Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, and to the director, and to the commissioner, to the CFO. Obviously, the Division of Water is very important to our residents, not only in Cleveland, but throughout the region. And I can recall coming in many, many years ago where the system was in serious trouble, and there was questions or not whether or not we were going to retain the system. And then there was the legal action taken against the city in an effort to try to take the system from us. And council had to do some very heavy lifting. Those of us, especially the new members who came in, because we also went through we went from 33 councilmen to 21. So there was a great deal of upheaval within the body to begin with, but then those of us that were left, we had to make some very tough decisions on the Division of Water, and we did that to maintain the system. So I believe we have one of the best water systems in the country. That's my opinion. But I'm also very mindful, and I look at my bills every month, my own bills, and I think we've got to be assured that we're doing everything internally to keep control of costs. And what I would ask through the chair to the administration, for the last 20 years, if you could tell us and provide to us and the commissioner referred to those as accounts?
Yes.
Okay. show us over the last 20 years, give us the number of accounts we've had over the past 20 years, if you can. Because what I'm reading, and probably do too much reading for my own good, but the projections are that the city of Cleveland is not going to grow in population, which troubles me greatly. And right now, we're confronted with the reduction of 2 wards due to population loss. And I'm also reading that Cuyahoga County is not growing in population. So at the end of the day, it's basic physics, if you want to look at it from that perspective. You only have so many customers. And the question is, how much additional cost do you put onto the customer base that you have? Now, there had been some discussion in the past of attempting to provide water to Lorraine, Avon Lake, et cetera. Where are we? And has there been any further discussion along those lines at all?
Director?
Through the chairman of the council member, there has not been any strong conversations
Yeah.
being had. We do maintain a relationship with
Yeah.
Avon Lake
Yeah.
and have agreements existing, and but we also know that the pressures on water systems across the country by way of federal regulation and
Yes.
compliance, there's always a strong push to consolidate.
Yes.
But no, any fruitful or real conversations as of recently have not happened.
Okay. We've got to figure out how to sell more water. And I can recall when we provided all of the water for Lake County. And then there was a terrible negotiation that took place then under the Voinovich administration. And the lead person that he had negotiating with Lake County did a terrible job. And as a result, Lake County decided to build their own system. They were buying water from us through the master meters. And we saw the growth in Lake County. So we lost all that potential opportunity, that customer base. I would encourage the administration to really look at where, and I don't know, you know better than I, because I guess there are some regulations as it pertains to how far we can ship water, right? It's in what they call the watershed?
That's correct,
Correct.
Councilman.
Okay. But I would say within the watershed, I think we have to aggressively look at where we can sell more water. Because if we think we're going to stop suburban expansion, anyone who thinks that is dreaming. Go out to Avon. Go out to Avon Lake. Go out to North Ridge. Look at the development out that way. It's absolutely incredible. I was out there just recently. If we think, and we provide water right now to Medina, correct?
Portions of it.
Portions
Medina
of
County,
it.
correct.
Medina County. How farther south can we go?
Can we go?
Yeah.
Well, it would require some infrastructure, Councilman, to
Yeah.
extend it down there, but
Okay.
we can go a little further south. Yes.
Because I know we provide Brunswick already, right?
Brunswick and portions of Hinckley. correct, and
Councilman,
Brunswick.
if I can, Director, Commissioner, can you just give us the geographical
Yeah.
boundaries right now?
Yeah.
Currently, we know how far north we go because we're sitting north, but south, east, and
Yeah,
west.
on the southwest side, we go as far as Brunswick, Brunswick Hills Township, Hinckley Township on the southwest side. On the southeast side, we are in Summit County, Twinsburg Township, Macedonia, Sagamore Hills, Northfield is the general area that we're serving in the southeast portion of our system.
So the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Chairman, and my honorable colleagues, if we think we're going to somehow stop that growth, we're not going to. That's wishful thinking. It's not going to happen. What we need to do is take advantage of that growth where we can supply water. So at the same time, then we keep our rates in Cleveland because it's based on your highs, as how far you pump. Then we can keep our water at a reasonable price in the city of Cleveland, which not only helps our citizens, but also businesses that use water. And let's face it, we do not have the major manufacturers that we once had that use vast amounts of water. We don't have them anymore. they've greatly dissipated or moved or closed. And I just look at my own neighborhood, the large plants and factories that are no longer there. East Glenville, Collinwood, they're no longer there that use mass quantities of water. They're gone. They're history. They're empty lots, a lot of those spots. So we've got to figure out how to aggressively market the division of water, in my opinion. I think that's got to be the role of the administration. Council can't do it. We don't hire, we don't fire, we don't deploy, we don't administer. It's up to the administration. But if we don't, the numbers that have been predicted have been presented to us, and let me get it back up on the screen here. I mean, our cost, and I'm looking at the recommended rate plan, our costs will continue to go up. And we know they're going to go up regardless because of cost of living, as has been indicated, chemicals, et cetera. But I think we have to do everything we can to keep our costs in check within the city, because it also benefits us from the standpoint of seeking new development and new business opportunities. But the reality is, when I came in this body, we were just under 700,000 people. Now we're what, at 372 or 376, something like that? The reality is that we're not going to gain substantial population. That ain't going to happen. But population growth is in other areas that we need to take advantage of. That's my opinion. And I just think if we don't, then we'll find ourselves in a situation like we did in the late 70s, where the 70s, where council was reluctant to increase rates because of concerns about our constituents, our residents, our small businesses. And then, unfortunately, it caught up with us. And the system was not upgraded. There were not capital projects initiated. And I know when in the late 70s, when I toured the Nottingham water plant at the time, that both my uncle and my father worked as laborers to dig the tunnels for that plant. I was appalled by the condition of the plant, how it had deteriorated. But you go out there today, it's in great shape because we made a concerted effort to improve not only that, but Garrett Morgan, Crown, all the rest of them. We made a concerted effort to enhance these plants. But if we don't think broader and we don't think bigger, and if we don't make an effort to sell water, we're going to find ourselves, in my opinion, in a situation where we're going to have to continue to raise rates on Cleveland residents and businesses, and which again will, in my opinion, will hurt us in the long run. What we're trying to achieve is to make Cleveland an affordable place to live and do business in. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Plensick. Commissioner or Director, who's our competitors? Like who provides water to the west of us? Who provides water further south that we don't service, and then further east? I know Avon, right, is to the west.
Avon, Medina.
Avon Lake to the west, right, Medina to the southwest,
Medina has their own.
city of Medina. And yeah, Medina County really is the principal purveyor through much of the southwest portion of our system that we border up against. It's Medina County. Southeast, you start going a little bit further south in Akron, water system starts to buck up against ours a little bit.
Okay.
That's who you'd see. Geauga County is a lot of local, smaller systems that exist. Portage County has a well system that feeds Streetsboro at the moment. We do feed the city of Aurora in Portage County, and we picked them up a number of years ago. But Streetsboro gets water from a well system in Portage County, and then, as the councilman mentioned, Lake County to the northeast.
Right. So from like Medina and Akron, where do they get their water source from?
Akron gets their water from the Cuyahoga River.
Okay, from
That's
the
their
river.
primary source. They have a couple dams and
Okay.
reservoirs that they store the water and then take from and treat it. That's the source of their system. Medina County, some of the water they purchase from Avon Lake, actually. That
Okay.
is a portion of their source. And I'm not sure the rest of their sources, Councilman.
Okay.
I have to find that
And
out.
then Avon gets it from the lake?
Avon gets it from Lake Erie, correct.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
Thank you.
I was just going to say, one thing I think would help us, of the existing plants we have, Mr. Chairman, what capacity are they at? That would tell us right there.
And certainly no problem with that request, and I would welcome any council members next Saturday to Garrett Morgan for Drinking Water Week. It is the
Yeah.
open house for, it's something that the commissioners and the staff, all of us are really, really proud of the event. We'll get you the flyer.
Yeah, because, Mr.
You
Chairman,
could pass that along. We'll get it out.
Nottingham was built to service all of Lake County. We no longer service
Nottingham's
Lake
next year.
County.
You want to announce?
No,
the-
Baldwin is.
Oh, Baldwin.
The 20.
Yeah. So I'd like to know what capacity we're running at, the plants. That would
Okay.
tell us as well.
All right,
Thank
you can
you.
give us that
got it.
information?
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you. Councilman Bishop? You're good? Councilman Harsh?
Mr. Chair, just a couple of questions through the chair to the director. The expected revenue decline on slide 6 of the unencumbered cash balance collapsing by 2029. However, it's corrected in slide 7. Is it my understanding correct that that entire unencumbered cash balance is maintained by the 3.75% increase detailed on page 8? Is that what we're doing? Is that the gist?
For the unencumbered cash or the revenue? Through the chairman to the council member, sorry.
The loss of unencumbered
The
cash shown on slide 6 is prevented by the 3.75% increase on slide 8. That's,
Chairman to the council member, correct.
I put that together, okay.
Yes.
And that's a 3.75% through the chair to the director, 3.75% increase per year,
Through the chairman to the council member, correct.
starting with 3.5% in 2025, but then going to 2029 at
And then
3.75.
Also, through the chairman of the council member, the fixed charge above that with a
Yes.
slight increase, but as CFO Troy, for the affordability,
Very modest.
yeah, we kind of made the decision to keep that at or below $10 because that's the fixed charge. No matter
Yeah.
how much you conserve or reduce consumption, our customers are paying that. So it's really important not to, in our estimation and hopefully with council's support, not to affect the fixed rate as much as the consumption, which is controllable by the customer.
Yeah, right. Okay, so through the chair of the director then, does this mean that essentially this 5-year study will need to be conducted again in preparation for 2029 when we have to then look at the rates in 2029 and figure out, I mean, it seems like it should be an ongoing process. Is that what we do, just basically a 5-year increments and take a look at it again in 5?
Through the chairman to the council member, that's our intention. It's been any different number of ways through the history of rates, depending on all kinds of things. But that's our current recommendation and that's industry standard. That's the preferred practice from the financial side, is the stability of the system for 5 years as we go out to bond and borrow in these two divisions this year. That's what the rating agencies, the bond markets, everything looks favorably upon, is the 5-year term. CFO, you want to add?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Did
was
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, the next term will actually be the full cost of service study, so we will be evaluating all the tiers to make sure everybody is allocated correctly, which is a much more in-depth experience.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I took the 2024 numbers and the 2029 projected numbers and did the math, and it's about a 20% increase over the course of 5 years. But, Mr. Chair, I think standard inflationary practice is about 3% per year, so it seems, slightly higher, but if that's what we need to do to ensure good service to our customers, it's still well below a lot of other options. My last question then goes to page 9, through the chair to the director or whoever wants to handle it. I see a lot of these are East Coast, West Coast cities that have higher, or they're inland, and I can understand why their water costs might be a little bit more, might be higher, and I see a lot of the places below us tend to be Great Lakes, Milwaukee, Detroit, having remarkably low water rates, Toledo down the road. Of course, Cincinnati probably pulls their water from the Ohio River. But I guess my question through the chair is, why are we and it's not to be overly critical, but why are we at 29, 18 on this chart when a place like Detroit, is it quantity? Is it just the bulk of water that they're able to push? And we all send a pull from Detroit.
I don't know.
Yeah, Detroit's got $21 a month water. That's Flint's not on here. I've been to Flint though. But my question remains: they all seem to be pulling from the same water supplies. Akron is, well, I don't know where Akron is, but Milwaukee and Detroit and Toledo are all Lake Erie based. So what's the general?
I mean, through the chairman of the council member, the commissioner can talk Detroit Water with you offline for hours and how their
I'm here
rates-
for it now, Director. This is why I have this job.
Okay, well, all right, then I'll have the commissioner. I mean, but you pick another city, and it has very little to do with the source. It has to do with the system and the improvements to the system and the maintenance of the system that we're required to do that drives the rates. But Detroit is very unique that there was a split, well, if you want to hear it.
Let's hear it. I mean, Councilman
Yeah.
wants to hear it.
I'm
Certainly
asking.
a number of years ago, well, when Detroit went through bankruptcy hearings a number of years ago, one of the requirements for them to get out of it was basically to sell their water system, which they did. They do not anymore control the water system in Detroit. The Great Lakes Water Authority was created there, and they are the ones who own and control the water treatment plants that create the water, and they then sell it on a wholesale basis to the city of Detroit. Detroit does nothing but buy water from Great Lakes and repair the local mains and bill their customers as a result. But they are no longer obligated to do all the capital improvements to those large treatment plants and infrastructure.
I see. So the price reflected here just is the purchase of water itself. It's no infrastructure maintenance or any of the mechanisms that actually generate the water.
That's correct. They don't maintain that.
And then through the chair, then how do they maintain their infrastructure in the Great Lakes Water Authority? Who pays for that?
Well, they sell to a large customer base outside the city of Detroit as well. And I think the sense is that a lot of those other customers are paying the bulk of the capital improvements necessary to
Interesting.
maintain the Great Lakes Water Authority infrastructure.
Interesting. Thank you. I appreciate that. No
that point,
further
Mr. Chair.
questions, Mr. Chair.
On that
Councilman
point,
Bishop?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Detroit system or the Great Lakes Authority, is that a larger system than the Cleveland system?
It is.
Okay,
Correct.
that's all I want. Thanks.
Anybody else? Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I know that this has been mentioned already, but I just want to bring it together in my mind. So in terms of rolling this out to the public, presenting this to the public and other public-facing aspects that would result from the rate study, what can we collectively expect through the chair?
Thank you, Chairman of the council members. So we have a lot of resources, and we've put plans together through our own public affairs communications team with the mayors and managers, with the Council of Governance, the Suburban Council of Governance, and with the consultants here also have a media or a public affairs strategy, which we've outlined. But really, we don't. Our efforts are to inform the legislative body that has to give us the authority first, right? We keep all of those partners informed, and we have had communications that ordinances are being introduced. We expect hearings through May. We will go out and present to them as need be. I believe the Suburban Council of Governance is towards the end of the month, and we do have a presentation prepared for them. Affordability, equity arm of it. But anyhow, there's a robust communication strategy, but we kind of start here because we don't know what we're going to talk about. We need to have the average bills that were outlined in here, the $9 a year anticipated increase on average throughout the next 5 years, what they can expect, and then we will be all summer. I mean, depending on when we get the authority, I guess. A long way of saying we're not trying to put the cart before the horse, and we need to respect the council.
Then, thank you. So for clarification, do we, and this might be something that members of this body discuss, not at the table, but do we have a sense, Mr. Chair, at this point, pacing for a legislative process as it relates to this?
I don't think there's a time frame for it as of yet. By the end of the year, I'm sure we'll have legislation that will have hearings. We want to make sure the administration does their due diligence for not just the city of Cleveland, because it is such a large region that they have to present to as well. So we want to make sure that they introduce it with us, we hear it, they go out, they do their due diligence to the whole region, make sure that the whole region is aware of these changes, and then they'll come back to us for the final authority. But we want to make sure that it's just, this isn't easy because it's just not the city of Cleveland, right? It's so much more than that, and we don't want our customers who don't live within the city of Cleveland to just say that we're dumping this on them, right? They've got a due diligence to do to Richfield and Strongsville or wherever else we provide to make sure that they're educated as well on this piece of legislation, that we actually have the final authority on it. But this is a little unique because we're passing legislation that just doesn't affect the city of Cleveland.
Right.
It affects the whole region. I know they'll probably spend the summer doing that. Whatever, I have not sat down with the director yet or the commissioner to get a schedule for them, but depending on when they get that done, so sometime probably early fall, late spring, whatever, it really goes on their schedule to when they're going to do their due diligence.
I mean, if I can, Chairman, to the council member, and we have been, everybody's known that this effort was underway. That's why so the conversation as a whole, the amount of effort we put into being fiscally responsible, right? To have a tight ship. And Cleveland City Council sees our budget every year, and there has been no significant increases. But we know that the cost of doing the business is increasing. But we didn't have the funds to accommodate and keep up to the lengths that we know we should for a system this large. But we are being as conservative as possible, as always, because dollars are hard to come by, and our customers' dollars are what makes us be able to provide this service. So we're respecting a number of different entities, but as far as what we are seeking today is Cleveland City Council understanding what we're doing and asking us any questions that they have. Everything else will fall into line, and that's on us. But again, this is introduced last Monday, heard today, hopefully a good, strong conversation, a good, strong conversation, and ultimate passage, right, at some point. And I don't have an ask, I don't have an expectation, but I certainly want to respect the legislative process, as do we as a team, to answer your questions and make you comfortable for all of our customers.
Thank you. So I think on that note, Mr. Chair, as this is socialized, for lack of a better word, through the region, I think that'll be an interesting part of our due diligence process, just to follow that process along and hear how it's going at various points.
I'm confident the director will keep us
Yes.
apprised
Correct.
as they go through whatever it is they have to go through with our partners outside the city of Cleveland.
Great. And then I had one more question related to slide 8, which we're on here. I wanted to make sure, this is really for the city of Cleveland customer, as opposed to any of this example, this slide would represent what we might expect for city of Cleveland customer, as opposed to any of the outlying customers.
Correct, but the percentages through the chairman of the council member would apply to each tier, which each tier has a different price per MCF, but the same percentages would apply. So the ordinance reads a little differently with the percentages in the first high, second high, but obviously to Cleveland City Council, we're going to present the Cleveland rate.
Okay. So let's see, the tier 1 and tier, can you, through the chair, explain tier 1 and tier 2 that's on here? This is not the first high, second high, this is the volume of
block,
user?
yes.
Okay.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, The water bill has a fixed fee, and then they have two rates for the consumption charge. The first smaller tier is considered, they call it a lifeline rate, which is supposed to be the less expensive portion, and then anything outside of that goes at the normal, the cost of service, and that's what those two tiers are.
But again, this entire slide is City of Cleveland users.
Correct.
The percentages would be the same for the other
Solon.
Service levels.
service levels.
Correct.
I'm asking this question totally unofficially, not, publicly, but unofficially. What, our duty, I mean, we serve our residents, the City of Cleveland, first and foremost, as a council, understanding that Cleveland Water is a much bigger enterprise that serves a much bigger population and serves our entire region. And it's really an important asset, not only for the city, but the entire region. What was it looked at to have different percentage changes outside of City of Cleveland? Was there a rationale in terms of sticking with the same percentages for City of Cleveland residents as opposed to customers who were outside the City of Cleveland? And was that explored at any point through the chair?
Through the chairman of the council member, that was the cost of service analysis that we will do before the 2029 rates. So the cost of service analysis is based on the tiers. It's where the tiers came from, the billing districts, based on how much it costs to take the water, treat the water, and then push the water, right? And it's then physics takes over. So those costs are the resultant in the increased MCF consumption rates in the other billing sections, billing tiers.
Director, I also add our water service agreement with the suburbs does have language that specifies the percent of increased city versus suburbs, so there's not total latitude in that respect. We're contractually limited within certain parameters to what we can do in that respect.
And thank you. And a follow-on question then through the chair, how often are those water service agreements with suburbs negotiated? Through the chair.
Through the chairman to the council member, thankfully, we've had a couple recently, the restated water service agreement, and we continue to meet with our suburban partners and discuss. The commissioner's done a really great job recently with getting out there and promoting it. We think it's a great tool for our suburban partners and continue to work hard at it.
All right. That concludes my questions for now. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Director, before we get into water pollution control, in the last 10 years, which would have been the last 2 rate studies, how many times did the water bill increase?
6 out of 9 it did not.
Yeah, so I think 4, to the chairman, sorry. I believe it was 4 out of the last 10 years had water increases.
So only 4 times in the last 10 years have we increased
That's
the water rate.
correct. And I believe that those were 3 different studies. So we had one that was 3 years.
Correct.
So you had a 2-part question with 10 years, last 2
Okay.
rate increases or rate studies.
Right.
It wasn't just 2. I think it was 3.
Okay, can you get us that, can you just
Yes.
get us the correct information over the last, we'll say 10 or 15 years? How many times has water rates gone up?
No problem.
Only because we always are taking the hit for the regional sewer district, right? So we need to be able to say, look, your rates haven't increased every single year like the sewer district does because they're their own entity. But I know that we don't raise water rates as often as they do. So we're always, whenever I get a phone call and people are complaining about their water bill, first thing I have to ask them is, what does your bill say? Right? Well, it says the regional sewer district. Well, that's not us, right? So I want to be able to get out there to say, your rates have increased this many times, and it's not that every single year increase that's occurring somewhere else. Any other questions on Cleveland Water? All right, water pollution control.
Thanks, Commissioner. And you saw that for the intern?
Can't believe you got this guy in a suit.
Deputy Commissioner Ryan Lopez will be joining us. Commissioner Lowry's on vacation today. Do you want to do the presentation, Commissioner?
Come on, Ryan, you can do it.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
So very similar presentation. I don't think it'll take as long. I mean, it's basically the same analysis was done, but if you want CFO Troy to run through it, we can do it efficiently.
Whoever you.
All right, so Water Pollution Control did their rate study at the same time as water. Their goals and objectives were very similar: to develop the 5-year financial plan for 2025 through 2029. And then we were also working on making sure we maintained affordability while meeting the system needs. Reminder again, Water Pollution Control is an enterprise fund, so it functions separately as a separate business entity for financial purposes. It is funded primarily through user rates and fees. Water pollution control was mainly developed in the city all the way through the 1920s and 1930s. This is important because all of our sewers are expected to have a useful life of about 100 years. So vast majority of our pipes are past that 100-year time period. So it is important to make sure that the capital is addressed for water pollution control at this time. Right now, water pollution control is, one of the benchmarks that we look at is to say how much sewer line renewal and replacement is being spent per mile of pipe. Water pollution control owns about 1,400 miles of pipe. They currently spend about $9,000 per mile of pipe. By 2029, if council approves this rate, we'll be spending 13,000 miles per pipe. As you can see, the average is $17,000 per mile of pipe. So we are working towards getting to that goal. We had a very similar table for you in the last rate study, which was about 3 years ago. It showed that the average was $12,000 per mile of pipe, where WPC had been spending less than $2,000 on average per mile. So WPC has been making great strides towards that, but as you can see, that average is a moving target, and we are still trying to get there. You can see the average or the annual revenue requirement comparison. The increase for rates is mainly to invest in the system. So the capital increasing in the operating budget would be $3 million. Plus, we are anticipating going out for debt about $67 million for various projects over the next 5 years. Slide 6. Again, this is very similar to water, where our financial planning metrics to strive to maintain our healthy financial position. We maintain our debt service coverage, adequate reserve requirements, and our capital funding. This is where WPC is different than water, in that we are continuing to ramp up our capital spending needs, where water is at a pretty appropriate level for where we believe they should be. Slide 7 is the unencumbered cash if the rates are not approved by council. You will see in 2026 there is significant issues, and they would be completely out of cash, but unencumbered cash by the end of 2027. Slide 8, though, does show that with the recommended rate approved, you will see that our target is met, and actually we chose to keep the cash position higher than the 150 days because between 2023 we had 235 days, and by this plan in 2029, even though keeping the cash position almost identical, we will be down to 166 days. So we are trying to make sure that in future years it's not a rate shock to that next version. The recommended rate plan, you can see here, the system does need to increase annually to address the capital challenges. The recommended plan is to assess the majority of the increases to the consumption charge, keeping the fixed fee below the below the $10 to assist in affordability. The average residential customer, which again is 0.5 MCFs, will see an average annual increase of 7% over 5 years, or less than $1.50 per month on average. WPC's comparable cities, this is different than water for the sheer fact that WPC is a collection-only system. So there's not a ton of cities out there that separate out their collection services from their treatment services. So these are the cities that we have been able to find, and they're fairly consistent from prior years. But you can see in here that the homestead rate for our customers is still the lowest. Even the WPC current rate is the second lowest, or the third lowest, behind Boston and Madison, Wisconsin. And even by 2029, we are still in the middle of the pack. But we do anticipate that everybody will be having similar type rate increases, so we would anticipate them to still be towards the bottom of the list. Conclusion, significant reinvestment is required to address the aging collection system. Addressing the replacement needs and increasing operational costs will require rate adjustments. And the recommended rate adjustments are designed to promote affordability by minimizing the fixed charge increases. And WPC rates are and will continue to be the lowest among our peers. Any questions?
Thank you. So it looks like, and your WPC is just added on to your water bill, correct? WPC does not send out a separate bill, it goes out on the water bill. And it looks like there's a jump from 2024 to 2025, but then after 26, there's no increase on the fixed charge, correct?
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for water pollution control? All right. Who? Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want some clarification on the slide number 3. I'm trying to understand where it says arrears past useful life. And then on the bottom it says, you know, we have 2020 in the same category as 1920. Could you explain, I'm having a hard time following what you're trying to express in this slide.
So the idea is to let you know which ones we are expecting, or that are past arrears, and then the second group is when we would be expected to replace those. So anything that was replaced in 1920 or installed in the 1920s should have been replaced in the 2020s. But we are still working on potentially the sewers that are even prior to that period.
Okay, so what percentage of the ones in 1920 that was installed is now replaced? How is that illustrated?
We can get you the exact, but it is a significant amount that has not been replaced.
Okay, so this slide doesn't show the amount that's not replaced.
Correct.
Correct.
And then all of the pipes before 1920 has not been replaced. Is that what I'm seeing?
Correct.
Okay. So the pipes, through the chair, the pipes in the 1930s, you expect them to be replaced in 2030. And we don't know the percentage of those that were replaced because that's too far in the future. Is that correct?
True. Councilman, if you look at the end of the graph, the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s, you will see how much had been replaced. So if you see in the 2000s how much was put in versus the 1900s, you can see that WPC is significantly behind at that point.
I still didn't follow that. Repeat that.
So if you look at the 1900s, it looks like a little less than 1,000 linear feet need to be replaced or
Okay.
were installed. And then if you look in the 2000s, I would say maybe 50 had been replaced.
Okay.
Chairman, to the council members, so it's just looking at it as a full spectrum. We've only replaced, in 30 years, we've replaced maybe 100 linear feet. But the 1900s were installed this 14, thousands of linear feet. So it's just kind of showing that we have not been replacing the pipe to the level we can because we have to respect the customers. We have to use the customer's dollar to do it. But
Okay.
we're requesting this increase, recognizing that the infrastructure is aging, and we
Okay.
need to put together a more robust replacement program.
Okay.
And be able to maintain everything else.
Okay.
So it's just kind of a full picture. They were installed, 100-year comes from the industry standard. That's what they say that a pipe should last. Now, some of it is already way older than that, and it's perfectly fine. So that's just the industry standard that is used across the country, if not the world, to base capital improvement programs and rates.
Okay, so going to slide number 4, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of these metrics. You're saying that the average is $17,000 per mile spent, and we have spent, and even with our rate increase, we will still be under the average spending on per mile pipes to replace, correct?
Correct.
So in essence, this rate increase is actually too small to maintain our system. Is that what I'm coming to?
Through the chair to the councilman, we are trying to be respectful of our residents and trying to understand what they can afford while trying to make sure we are maintaining the system to our best of our ability. Would I love to put on an extra $6 million? Yes, but that is a significant ask on top of what we're already asking.
Okay, so is it safe to assume that as we move along in time, that our needs will be greater to maintain our system as we move along in time, and we'll fall further behind?
Chairman to the council member, yes.
Yes.
So do we have a strategy to, I don't want to say catch up, but to pick up our pace? Do we have any kind of strategy?
Chairman to the council member, yes, and that's reflected in this request. Also, we are going out to borrow this year to get some of the, again, it's the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, the team identifies the data. We go after the worst first. We know where the problem areas are, and we've been really, they've been really good at seeking the dollars through other partners and making those necessary fixes. So, we have the plan. We need the funds to implement the plan, but the extra $6 million would help, but we have to keep an eye on the utility burden of our customers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. And Director, is this rate baked in because we are reactive and replace when pipes break, or is this based on something proactive, like, okay, this is how many linear feet we have that was put in 1920, anticipating we're going to have to replace everything that was put in, we'll just say 1920?
Both. We need to continue to, Chairman, we need to continue to do the services that our customers demand, which is the replacement of anything that has broken. But the proactive nature is continuing to identify those areas of the system that need improvement, immediate improvement, and that improves the entire system. As the deputy commissioner certainly could say, once you fix one thing, it relieves the stresses on the entire system. So we continue to identify and make those improvements to the betterment of the system and then the delivery of service to our customers. So reactive, continue to do what we have to do, but proactive to continue to identify the areas that need money.
All right, and then another question is water pollution control's footprint the same as Cleveland Water?
Chairman, no. water pollution control is the city of Cleveland proper.
Just the city of Cleveland. If something breaks in Lake Euclid, a main breaks in Euclid, who's responsible for fixing that?
Sewer main, Chairman?
Yeah.
So throughout the suburbs, they either have their own local sewer entity, department, or a lot contract with the county.
Okay, all right. Councilman Hirsch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Councilman Bishop was pretty much getting to the heart of what my question was as well, which is that on page, and I'll just sort of talk through this, tell me if I'm wildly off base, but on page slide 4, my question was going to be, through the chair, is below average spending per mile evidence of fiscal responsibility or disinvestment in public infrastructure? And I guess the answer is yes. Because if we don't spend money, then we're being fiscally conservative and helping our customers with their bill. And if we don't maintain our infrastructure, we're going to have problems, and we have to spend money on infrastructure. And I think it was the same sort of question that Councilman Bishop was getting
Through
at.
the chairman of the council member, same, except for the disinvestment, right? I mean, the areas of our system that the system works. Disinvestment would indicate that something's not working, and we have decided not to invest in it, which isn't the case. But
I get, my confusion through the chair was, are we trying to get to 17,000? Is that like industry standard? We want to be at 17, or are we proud of being below 17? That was what I was kind of confused about.
So we are trying to get to that. When this slide happened 3 years ago when we reviewed, WPC was at about $2,000 per mile. So we have been ramping up. We just don't want to be a rate shock to ramp it all up
Right.
in one go. So we would hope in 5 years we would get ourselves closer to the average in that time period.
And through the chair, what that means is that we're maintaining the infrastructure so that it continues to serve the needs of the customers, the ratepayers and residents.
Correct.
Okay. Then my other questions kind of get, just out of curiosity through the chair, what is VCP? It's the green bar on graph 3. What is VCP?
That's Ryan.
Volvo?
To the chair, to the council member, that is vitrified clay pipe.
clay.
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 Clay. Oh,
Yes.
clay. Okay. I know what brick is. I know what concrete is. Clay. Okay.
You didn't know VCP was Vicaride Clay?
I didn't know VCP was clay. I've always called it clay. That's fine.
Next time you're going down the road and you see it sitting there, you're like, hey, honey, do you know what that is? She's going to say clay. You're going to be like, no, it's VCP.
You see that VCP? I will say that VCP cracks quite easily, and when it does, it's a headache from experience. Over to slide 9, page 9. So the same thing I did with the water. The MFC increases, the usage rate per MCF from 1697 in 2024 to 2896 in 2029 is a 70% increase. The 12% per year ends up being 70% over 5 years, which is way higher than the water that we were just looking at. And when you do the sample bill breakdown, I do appreciate the structure of this because it looks like a 27% increase for the low user, the 40% increase for average, and 50% for high user. But through the chair of the director, why is this percentage increase so much higher than the water that we just looked at?
So, Chairman of the council member, water and WPC are totally different.
Sure.
Obviously, the services that are delivered, but water pollution control has not had the historical increases in that water has had and we'll get all those numbers to you, but there was a good stretch that water pollution control didn't have any current rate ordinance. So we're trying to catch up. The cost of doing these sewer replacements is going up. So we knew that, and the last time we did it at WPC, these numbers were obviously much different, but the increase was less, dramatically less. So we know we need to catch up in order to hopefully increase $1 million a year in capital replacement of the sewers in order to at least get towards that 1%. The 1% is our goal. Replace 1% of our system every single year. That is, that's just prudent fiscal management and business in the sewer industry. So I don't know how else to explain the difference in the two. The percentages are different.
Okay. I think, Mr. Chair, most people, most residents have it in their head that water, the sewer charge is just basically the other side of their water charge. You brought in this much water goes down. This much comes out of the faucet, this much goes down the drain. And that those should be reciprocal, or maybe not reciprocal, but there should be a correlation that is consistent between the two. And it seems like your answer is that there's some catch up that needs to be done. We have some catching up with water pollution control, and I suppose that I will accept that answer. I guess if you're a low-end user, a low-quantity user, and your current bill is $12.29, and in 5 years it's $3 more, that ought to be a burden that I think most of our folks over the course of 5 years can manage. And if you're a regular average user and it goes from 17 to 24, and that's a $7 increase over the course of 5 years, I would think that that's also going to be manageable. That people will be able to figure that out. So I have no other questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Polensek.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, to the director and to the acting commissioner, and to our finance lady. The WPC, I was trying to jog my brain here, was created when? Do we know?
Commissioner?
I want to say it was like 1969.
It would be a guess. We'd
Yeah.
have to get
Okay.
It was anywhere from 69 to
Okay.
72.
And then there was the effort that took the large interceptors and created a regional sewer district, and then split that off, so our residents now get they get that separate bill, and then they get the WPC bill within their water bill. It goes back to some of the same questions I raised with water. We want to make sure that we're being, as the cost, mindful of expenses and costs as we can. But I also can say, I think in my experience, there has been a big improvement in WPC in its ability and its efforts to address the problems that we're experiencing in the city of Cleveland. And we all know that we have sewers that are well over 100 years of age, and there is no way that we're going to be able to replace all that. That's just a reality. Even if we wanted to, just the cost of doing that would be prohibited. So I'm glad that the people who laid the clay pipe and the bricks in the day did such a good job, because I've seen some of these, and I'm just amazed to think that that they were laying brick like they did, and bricks must have been real cheap, and labor must have been real cheap. When you see the different layers, about 3 layers, 3 layers of brick, and to think that they laid that all by hand. So it's a tribute to the workers and the craftsmanship in the day. But I had at one time 40 acres, and I know the area like the back of my hand. 40 acres of my ward would flood severely every time there was a massive downpour. I mean, it was like clockwork. And so that has disappeared over the years with the efforts that WPC has taken to address. And now that was the Rockefeller Relief Sewer and all the other things that were done to address that massive flooding. But I can remember going to people's homes and opening their basement door, or they opening their basement door, and the water was right to the top. We're not talking inches, we're talking feet, 6 feet of water in the basement. Some families, they just gave up, moved everything out of the basement up into where they could, if they could, onto the first floor. their appliances. So I'm aware of the successes that we've had, and I'm still aware of the challenges that we have. Because again, the system is getting older and issues with runout. In your comparison of other cities, as you did in water, you have the Great Lakes cities, but the Great Lakes cities are not included here. Why not, in your comparison of rates?
Chairman, to the council member, that's predominantly because, as outlined on the bottom of the chart, we had to find comps of cities that only charge for the moving of the sewer, right? Everybody else, a lot of other major cities have a combined water pollution control and NEORSD. But as you outlined,
Yeah.
the legal actions of the 70s created regional, but not a lot of cities bill for what WPC does alone.
Okay.
So it was hard to find comps, and this happens every time we do these rate analyses,
Okay.
but we do the best we can.
So you're telling us you're comparing apples to apples?
We're trying very hard.
Okay, because I think that's
Yes.
important for us to understand, because again,
Collection services.
Water bills in the day and sewer bills in a day were your cheapest utility. Not anymore, okay? We're right there, we're right there every month. I mean, if I put my water and sewer together, it's over my Cleveland Public Power bill every month. So I'm mindful of that. I'm mindful of the people who are on fixed incomes and working poor and struggling to meet the basic needs. So what you're outlining to us here with your proposal through 2024 through 2029 is that you're saying to us that this would keep the system solvent, WPC,
Chairman of the
with your
council member.
recommendations.
That's correct. In a strong financial footing and also improved service.
Okay. So when you say improved service, that's additional replacement, more staff, more what? Tell us.
Predominantly system improvement.
System.
$1 million a year is our
Okay.
goal
Okay.
based on these rates, but also council's well aware that we have a lot of vacancies, and we held off on hiring a couple of years ago. We're still pulling out of that. We have equipment needs. Now, the vac trucks are newer, but those don't last forever. Those
Right.
take a beating, as you're all aware. So
No.
there's vehicle improvements, equipment improvements, people, but these rates are recommended based on the amount of pipe we are replacing a year. We
Okay.
need to do better.
So I'm going to ask the same question I did with water, the number of accounts for this, because obviously every demolition, there's no longer an account. So over the last 20 years, I would like to see the number of accounts per WPC, so it would give us a better indication as to what we're dealing with. On the other side of the equation, the number of the actual linear feet, or I don't know how you or lane miles, or however you define. How do you define the length, the amount of pipe in the ground? What do you refer to that? Linear feet or what?
Linear feet.
Okay, so the linear feet of pipe in the street has not diminished, even though the number of structures have diminished.
Correct.
And the number of people paying water, sewer bills have diminished, okay? So that's part of our challenge when I talk to folks in my own ward, especially as it pertains to condition of our streets. We have less people paying taxes, but the number of streets have not disappeared. That's part of the challenges that we're confronted with. So I think it's about also continuing to educate our citizens of the challenges that we have as we move forward, because we've got to maintain the water system. I mean, it's just water system and sewer system, because if not, we see the end results, people's basements getting flooded, and affecting their quality of life. And anyone who's ever experienced a basement flooded, you never want to go through that again, I can assure you. Especially some of the things that I've experienced, that I've seen firsthand in my neighborhood over the years. I would never want to go. I've had minor flooding in my own basement years ago, but to see what some people have experienced, I could not even conceive And it's one thing to get it once, but to get it multiple times over the years, that's another thing. So Mr. Chairman, I just want to say this. I think we've made, my observation, I think we've made big improvements in water pollution control from what we had many, many years ago. And I want to make sure that whatever action we take, we want to continue to be able to address the concerns of our residents, especially those who are experiencing basement flooding. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Ms. Columbia, do you have those requests? Do you have those requests? All right. Okay, anything else for Water Pollution Control or Department of Public Utilities? Seeing none, Director, Commissioners, Chiefs, Marguerite, back there in the back, who refuses to come to the table, but is extremely knowledgeable and always there for any council member. Thank you very much. This Utilities Committee is adjourned until the call of the chair. Thank you.
Thank you.